So, welcome. This is the Conservation Commission monthly meeting. And the first thing we're going to do is a roll call, and then we'll go through the regular list of items. So, Michael DiLorenzo, Chairman, present. Guy Hoffman, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Karen Pagliaro.
Present.
Tom Heisler. Carl Lewis. I know Carl's not here. He had told me he'd be available. Joseph Mazza.
Present.
Robert Ramsey.
Present.
Thank you. Mary Catherine LaRose. Not here. Thank you. So we have a guest present.
Yes, greetings. I am Edward Grimm, and my partner Pierre Venerup is supposed to be coming along as well, joining us.
Okay.
Oh, here he is. Come on up here. We have something, I guess, to bring up to the board. Maureen may have told you.
I actually didn't have much to fill. We've been running and Mike and I did not connect this week, but we do have several items that I would like to add to the agenda this evening.
Okay, one of them.
And so one of them is with regard to Chamberlain Highway and relocation of the easement that goes across Mr. Bennerup's property to one of his adjacent properties as he prepares to liquidate his assets over there and change ownership of some of the parcels. So you might all remember a couple of years ago, Carl, myself. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What you just said.
The relocation of the open space easement on Mr. Barron's property on Chamberlain Highway. Back to the former Meriden gas turbine property, which is called Blue Hill Conservation.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Guy or Joseph, second.
Can you guys hear us?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Can we also, just for point of order, because everything was coming through my computer before, can they confirm they can hear you well and are not using it? So the speaker needs to be coming from there.
Can you guys hear me well?
It's a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Let me just double check the,
Want me to move closer, Maureen?
no, I'm gonna double check the microphone and make sure the microphone is the same as, let's try that microphone. So, speaking.
Okay, so as our new, it's better. Thank you.
Yeah.
So since we have guests here, we'll move to this item right away so that we don't keep you here. We love to be kind to our guests. So you guys have the floor, please. Or I don't know if Maureen, you want, so you kind of explained it, Maureen, right?
Try to find some maps. So you guys might remember a couple of years ago, this was approached as well. I believe it was brought to this commission by, I'm gonna say it was the former town planner Mark and I that went out, but it might have been our last CEO, Adam and I that went out with Pierre as well. And Carl Lewis, Commissioner Lewis, was a part of that meeting with us. The existing access is through this Bennerup property, which is, what number does that, do you know?
2225.
2215 Chamberlain Highway, and goes sort of my recollection is that the easement is not actually defined as, I'm gonna take this off so there's is not actually defined as to exactly where it is, but it's an access easement and parking is provided at the lower end of the site or easterly end of the site to get to trails that are up along this ridge. Mr. Bennerup is been exploring options to move access down to a property to the south of that, including adding a parking area up near the road and then trail access to walk down to access the trails on the east side of this property, or off to the east of this property. So I'll let you run with it.
Sure. Yeah, you can fill it if you like. So we're proposing, as you can see in the blue highlight, that is the existing, as it currently sits, the access to the trails. The little square off up in the top corner is, there's no real designated parking area per se, but it's sort of the area, I suppose, site that was delineated for parking. This is a trailhead that, as and Carl may have mentioned this to you guys, if he's had a conversation with you, does not get used very much. And maybe for the reasons of it's difficult to get at, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, it does exist, and Pierre had agreed with the property to have that access be there. We are looking to move the property, the access to that middle property, and it does not have an address. It has a map block lot number, and I don't have it right with me generally, but I can look it up for you if someone needs it. But it's that middle property where the green delineation is. And then there will be a new parking area proposed that should be able to fit 4 vehicles in that spot, which is, I think, significantly improved as to what was there. So the gate's sort of been locked there without getting too much detail. Parking was sort of pushed out onto the front road area. There's just really not a lot of access there for parking. So the green is what is proposed. I guess let me give you a little bit of an insight. I am Pierre's partner on various projects that we are working on. I am the person who is in the process of purchasing said property with the access trail on it, and I'm also going to be buying adjacent property to it. I'm a town resident. I use our trails. I love our trail system. I love the open space that we have. So I am in favor of this as well, as I will become the new landowner of this property. We are looking to try to move that access in the green line where it is what's called proposed on the maps that you all have in front of you. Currently, right now, we have an access that is delineated by the red dotted line. And that is an area that we cleared out through some woods, but basically then runs through most of an open roadway that the farm has. We feel that that is not really appropriate access for many number of reasons, which we discussed with Chris Edge and Maureen and Steve Wood and Carl as they came out to site for a visit. But so that we can move this along and see if we can get this access changed. We do have something that's in place already, so that town residents could really immediately use it, should it be approved. But the green is going to require a little bit of clearing. There is some scrubby material that's there. It would be very convenient for me to work on that in the winter months. I am a seasonal contractor, and I have time in the months to be able to put that through. And it is not a difficult amount of work, but it's nonetheless important to be done. So that's what we are proposing. Do you have anything else, Pierre, that you want to add to that?
Well, I'll go back to history a little bit. When I originally bought these pieces of property, and I don't know how many years ago, I was asked if I would permit an access to the trailhead, which is on top of the ridge, and that's the ridge. I think you all know where that is. And I said, fine. By the way, I didn't get any money for this. I did this as a, good citizen for the town. In fact, it cost me a considerable amount of money. everything's done, including the bridge over. The proposed, and it turned out not to be very good before I had a buyer for this land. He doesn't want to have too much through. I told him, well, very few people do that, but he said, I don't care, I want to be able to lock the gate, I want to be able to, so I understand that. This parking area here is never gated, there's never going to be a problem getting through. As some of you may know, a few years ago when I supposedly retired, I leased it out, and the lease owners at that time put a gate up there, and I told them to do that, and they kept it there, and that was not part of the original plan, and caused some problems. So this is going to solve that problem. This is actually a closer access, and it's a nicer access because it goes through woods the whole way. There it goes through, field, I suppose, but this is closer, and I think a better thing. The other thing is the parking lot is right near the road. You don't have to drive away again. It's an improvement over what was, and I think it's a sensible thing to do. And fortunately, Ed, who has a contract to buy the property, has agreed to do this, and has already, done. The red line is already complete. The green line will be complete, by the end of the year. So I don't know if you have any questions about it. Remember, we're not making any money on this. This is our good citizen project that allow people to go up to the trail and get easier access and other. Anybody have any questions?
Can I add a few more things procedurally?
Sure.
Okay, so right now the language is written so that the easement is on the property to the north, the blue line roughly, as well as the parking down there. There'll be the obvious need for legal wording as well as capability and review to make sure that the easement can be moved from one property to another property. Included with any change to the easement would require this property to the south. What number is that? That's the one with the house on it.
2289.
2289 is where the driveway actually enters, where the parking and new trail is proposed through the property in this, that he called in the middle, that's between them, that's 0 Chamberlain Highway right now, because it has no structures on it. But the driveway is on the property to the south. So again, that would be another easement. And we'll also require, we just got this plan today, but confirmation that sightlines are appropriate for parking in that area for the public. And, I encourage, once we have plans, get supported of the building, to the PD, engineering, et cetera, then we can start to work on what the legal process is if it's supported. So I think from my standpoint, looking more for whether or not the commission would support this to invest the staff time to do all work with for the other items. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Benner, thank you, Mr. Grimm, too. So yeah, this has been kind of being discussed for a little while now, and I think we've had quite a few discussions about it. We're appreciative of the access that you've given on the blue line. It's a great thing, and we do realize, well, we've always realized that it was kind of underutilized or not really utilized for a variety of reasons. And I think that the new proposed plan might change that a little because it'll give it some visibility. And one of the big things that we constantly look for is off-road parking for our open space parcels, which is very difficult to find, but it's a safety thing. Open the sightline issue is okay as well. So we think it's a great thing, and it's very nice that you're proposing this for the town. I do have one question. So the trail that blazed and will continue, I use the word blazed, but clear. Will it be clearly marked? I mean, because you don't want people straying onto
Sure.
your property.
So I'm not sure if you folks provide some of the signage that are on the trails now, or we have to get that ourselves, but if you're able to provide that, we can surely, install any signage so that we could. My plan would be, when I finally close on the property, I'll likely get it marked, I'll get the property boundaries marked, just so that we have that delineation. And then that will help, obviously, with where the trailhead. So I likely not gonna put it right at the property line. The neighbor here at the front, his property is mostly cleared, and I'd rather have people not walking sort of through his backyard. So I'll keep a buffer space of some sort there.
Yeah.
Right, and then, but then if I have it, so that, we got a couple of signs, just the arrows, I think it's the Metaconic Trail, if I'm not mistaken, right? With blue arrows on it that take you around to where it's at. There is some existing signage down where it already sort of enters in and over the bridge. But certainly, something at the parking area, probably 2 or 3 or 4 maybe along the line. I think it's appropriate, and if you guys could get that for us, that would be great.
No, I think it's great, because usually what we do, or I would be thinking about where the parking areas would be. We call it gateway signs, but it's, the sign that we have, it's the same model almost everywhere that says, Town of Berlin open space. And then we probably would engage CFPA, the Forest Park Association, who are great partners, and they help with a lot of the trail maintenance and trail construction. And they would help with probably blazing that and putting that on their maps too.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it sounds like a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
One other minor point, where the parking area is, Ed has cleaned it out and it's a nice area now, it's four cars. If the town has any access to gravel, we could use it. Frankly, I'm sure we could buy it, but
Yeah,
this is a gift from us to the town, and the town maybe has the town like some part of the whatever. Gravel is expensive.
Yeah.
it's probably not for you guys to decide necessarily. That's probably the next level, I suppose, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it would, Maureen, you would think that, because it's probably the sign.
It's just cleared soil. The topsoil has been removed, so there's the subsoil that's probably usable, it's not wet, but any kind of rain up there might, 2-wheel drive cars are kind of difficult even on that space.
I think
So if I may, the elevation from the driveway to the parking area kind of dips, and so the improvements to that parking, not anything fancy, but something is, would be necessary, in my opinion. And of course, we could, I think, during our walk, Steve might have mentioned that there may be outlets for excess materials, but again, that's not something I usually investigate, but but ask you to go forward, then I talk to Public Works about that and start the movement on those requests, but we didn't get there.
Okay, I think the town also wants to be sure until this is all complete, that you don't want to have an inviting area that you don't want people to go on there before they're supposed to. Or park there before they're supposed to.
Yep.
Because you still have the sightline issue, and you have liability issues, so.
Yeah, I think, Maureen, you correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is, before it goes to sort of the official folks who are gonna make the decision legally whether this can be done or not, they're gonna want your blessing, and I think that's why we're here in front of you, to see if it's something that you're in favor of or not, and then let the legality sort of. I think that's my understanding.
As soon as possible, by the way, I have a buyer for this piece on the upper piece there. And that buyer wanted to move in December, and well, hadn't been possible. Mostly because of the fact that this trail wasn't transferred, so as quick as possible to get this done. I know things like this moves through the town rather slowly at times, to make sure you can do what you can to keep it moving along. All right. One other minor thing, which has nothing to do with anything, we always had signs up there on the trail showing where Metacomet Trail connected to the accessing. I've had problems with vandalism of those signs. I don't know what you do about it. I mean, I'm there and signs knocked over is one thing, but when signs are ripped, and that doesn't happen by the wind or metal signs. I don't know why people do that. And I'm sure it's not the hikers. I'm not sure. Now, I'm sure it wasn't employed of mine either. So that's a problem. I don't know how you deal with that. He's had problems with those signs. This trail is maybe Maureen, you know when that original access trail was done, but it's maybe 20 years ago or so. I don't know how many times I've had to replace the signs, and sometimes they're just gone. I don't know, pull them out of the ground and go on. I'm sure you.
I think more foot traffic there would be a good thing, and I know that area is also prone to a lot of off-road vehicle use.
Yeah,
You know,
true,
so-
yeah. Yeah, we hear. 'em.
Yeah,
We hear 'em.
sure.
Probably down on your other piece.
Yeah.
So I can just make a couple more points for the Conservation Commission's thought, because these were things that were brought up, and thinking Carl might be the one that have been here to make these comments, so I'm gonna try to channel some of the things he said during our site walk. Was one, that this access up here, the existing access, despite the easement, is frequently gated and makes the trail access inaccessible to many. And as Mr. Benro just commented, the signage is problematic in that area, no matter where that problem comes from. We did discuss that buffering, as they're proposing to move the trail pretty far north along this property line, hugging the property between Mr. Benro's properties, and the thought that yes, that should be somewhat buffered from that residential lot, that the existing residential lot that's there, although it is all a POD zone, that's a house. Keeping the trail to the north side, okay, but maybe not hugging it too far. And that when we discussed moving the trail, the last go around with the previous proposal, this red line was going to keep the trail coming nice and snug to these greenhouses that are down at the easterly end of the property. And then there was discussion of a new bridge. There's a bridge up in this area somewhere, I assume it's where the blue line meets, that was recently partially repaired or shored up, I guess would be the best term. And by moving the trail this way, it allows that bridge to continue its use where it exists and not have to be relocated either. And then he has access to the bulk of the flat land of this parcel contiguously. Also, this house at this time anyway, I think is occupied, and I mean, it's a house.
Correct.
So there was I'm not even sure if it was a conversation amongst all of us, but an aside at least, that with movement at that house, perhaps vandalism of the sign or anything else would be less likely because there's people there, as opposed to down in this area or further north where it's more wide open vacant area. So those are some of the items that came up during the discussion.
Thank you. Guy or Joe, do you have any comments or questions?
This is.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, sorry, Guy. No, no comments. Go ahead, Guy. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Guy Hoffman, Vice Chair. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Maureen. I had a question about the bridge, because I remember that from the last time, that the need for one, but with this trail going through the path of the green line, then eliminates the need for that additional bridge, it sounds like. So I think it's a good proposal, and I agree that signage, we should, and once this is all done, that a standard open space sign should go up near the parking. With whatever might be needed for instructions as far, or directions as far as the trail and do's and don'ts. So that's all I've got right now on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess a motion to agree to the change in the entrance and trail as proposed from our commission, obviously has to go through all legal ramifications.
Any second?
Yeah, I'll second Guy Hoffman.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Other questions? All in favor of the proposal to move the easement and the parking area and trail, the location of the trail as proposed? Say aye.
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 No opposition, thank you. So moved. So now it'll go to Maureen will move this down the chain.
Awesome. Thank you
We're up
guys
the
very
chain.
much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, it's where
You
you
know
go.
how
See, that's
long-
great.
It's kind of exciting, actually.
So like,
And we'll
how long-
probably make some
It just
formality
seems like it's a nicer walk.
and
Parking here.
and legal. And if you have a lawyer that's looked at the language that can provide some
Ready to look at it,
Wow.
but
ability to do this, that would be helpful.
I have a look, Marty, but they charge a lot of money.
So does ours.
And that's fine, I was just.
Like I said, if you had that looked into,
The footage is on there. Okay. But,
we'll have to talk probably next week, late this week or next week. I have meetings tomorrow night and Thursday night, so, you know, I'm just not going to be able to.
do you want
Yeah.
these to, for other folks to hang on to it all and look at?
You don't, they want,
Well, I have no use for them, I have 8 hours, so.
Peacemaker making copies. The town enjoys that.
Copies are expensive now, it's like 60 cents a piece, man. 5 cents a copy. So you wanna hang on to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again. Appreciate it. Yep.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care now.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
thank
to
you.
us.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrow, thanks. Okay, so we're going back to the regular order of last month's minutes. Everybody should have a copy. Guy or Joe, any comments on the minutes from last month?
It's Guy Hoffman. Just one little one on the second page with the Winesap Road update. The second line, I think it just wants to be, it should be a one letter went out. And I would just write it out as
Wendy.
O-N-E.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless that was supposed to be like a letter, I don't know. It's a I letter.
Oh, it is supposed to be an
Same
Better
as
one.
one.
A.
Okay. So if that's the only modification, all in favor of accepting the minutes as modified? Aye,
Aye.
thank you, so moved.
Guys, motion.
What's that?
That was guys' motion.
You didn't really make a motion. We'll make you guys.
Yeah, that was Guy's motion.
Guy, that's your motion.
That was your motion, right?
For what?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for the minutes,
For the minutes.
yes,
For that change.
sure.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rob.
So, thanks.
Everybody got, so the next thing is the next year's meeting minutes. Did you all get that list?
Yes. Meeting dates.
Dates, meeting dates. What did I say? Meeting what?
Minutes.
We knew what you meant.
Minutes on the right. So if nobody sees any glaring issues,
The only one I'm worried about.
Michael?
is elections.
election day,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you guys.
So town hall is open, obviously, for voting, right? So.
Guy has a comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, that was gonna be my question, whether town hall is really open for regular
Business.
business
Yeah,
and
but
stuff,
voting's
because,
not here, right? It's voting's at the school, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We do have public coming in to vote here. There are certain entities that do come here. And the registrars are here as well as the town clerk's office doing their election business on election day. So I
Is the town
don't know if there's
open
a
or
town
closed?
policy about having meetings on election night. I just actually noticed that at about 4:00 today when I looked at the schedule, because Caitlin put together the calendar for us. So I didn't get to ask the town manager's office that question.
You know what? So as is, it's as is, and if we find out that town hall's closed, we'll make an adjustment.
The town business is open for the day, if
Oh,
that was
that's
your
great.
question.
Oh, then we're.
We are here for business, I just don't know if town meetings are
Okay.
discouraged on that night or may.
Can is there, is, am I able to vote tonight? Because there's not enough actual members. I don't want to do it.
No, it's just we
3,
have
4.
more.
You have 4.
Okay, what's the quorum? Or what's full seated?
Seven.
6.
If you're not fully seated, she can be seated to vote.
Even if we have a quorum?
If you have a quorum, you can seat alternates up to your full regular seat.
Okay, so I can vote. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you for making that
You know
clarification
what?
so that we
I
make
just
sure the
learned that.
minutes
I
are
never knew
correct.
that. I thought it was just to make a quorum. Okay, cool. All right, so we need a motion for accepting the minutes.
We know what you meant though.
Yeah, exactly. I
The
move that
dates.
we accept the
Meeting
meeting
dates.
dates for the calendar year of 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. All in favor of accepting the meeting dates for 2022 as written, as proposed?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Thank you. So as it always happens, the budget submission happens in between our meetings. And it's usually we're last to know, so anyway, we didn't change anything, we just basically proposed the same thing, same budget that we had last year for this year. I'm assuming, Maureen, you submitted that, right? So our total budget, I can read it off, the total budget is $4,240. And, there's a breakdown, thank you.
Let me just get it to
Actually,
share with these
The
guys.
narrative.
Give me 1 second so I can share the screen. That just takes a minute each time. Okay, so then the narrative.
Right, so we have the recording, secretary fees, I'm sorry to use the word secretaries, but that's what's there. And our biggest line item is the same, is what we always call public education, which we use predominantly for signage. For open space signage, which our previous guests were gonna have a need for that as well. There's a little bit of organization fees and supplies, which I don't. More paper.
This is more than last year.
No, same.
The organizational fees are for the parks.
Oh, why that
Parks
went
and
up
Trails
$15?
And,
No,
and
just actual.
I forget the officials of this, yay.
So there was a khaki whack workshop, which and nobody used this past year. Well, actually, I don't even know if they had one. The annual convention, that's what the professional development is. And then the fees would be the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, khaki whack. You know what, which I'm not sure we renewed because I haven't seen a newsletter in a while, so I gotta check on that. Although it says we
So,
spent 140 already. Okay,
so I know we had a conversation when the bills came in because there is a provision, I believe it's in there, for multiple boards.
Yeah.
So we pay it together with
Wetlands.
wetlands, I believe, so it's more than one, but not as much as two boards paying separately, and so that may be a matter of moving money in order to make that happen with one payment between the two commissions, but you each of the commissions allocate for it. And then finance does its thing by paying the bill by.
I think it's a good organization, and the newsletter has got some good information on
I
it.
take stuff all the time from
Me too, yeah.
environmental ones.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and they did a good one, not too, I think it was last year, on a mile a minute vine, you know, invasive
yeah?
species, so yeah, so it's one of the things we covered, so.
Good. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of last minute, but we asked for the same thing, and hopefully we'll get the same thing. So Maureen, a couple of these are going to be you, the trail connection,
Is it all me?
it's all you.
I don't know.
So wait, before, I'll wait till we get to town lands down there for, scale.
You wanna do it all at once? Okay. Okay, so going to the trail connection from Town Hall Complex to Personal Fields, I believe we discussed that in a previous meeting, supported that for the 824 that went to Planning and Zoning Commission. And they, just an update that they sent a favorable recommendation back to Town Council, which I think is on their agenda tonight. I don't think it was on the last meeting, I think it's on this coming one. And then we've been working as a staff on, with a consultant for a draft woodland sportsman pond open space concept. And I'd like to share with you the concept
Which we have discussed here before too.
that has been put together.
This is the one that's kind of hard to get to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let me share the screen again, hold on. So,
There isn't any.
so this plan, you guys can see it, right? On the.
Guy and Joe, you can see this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, I mean, I know our scale's a little off because I can't really blow it up bigger, because of what else is on my screen, maybe a little bigger. You have Woodland Road, Woodlawn here. Fuller Way goes down here, and the Berlin Turnpike is over here on the easterly side. We have a proposal before the Planning and Zoning Commission for development around ABC Supply, which is right here, right now. And just up to the north up here, we have the new 404 Berlin Turnpike development that's underway. They've had filled, they've gone through all the commissions, and it's a mixed use project that's underway, and that will also have open space associated with it. The town land is delineated by the dotted line, and the green shows what is pretty much wet and not traversable. So one of the first things we wanted them to look at was access from the end of Woodlawn Road into the open space, knowing we own right up to the street and that there was potential there. What the consultant found is that this really is not traversable and not likely a good spot for a trail. At the end of Fuller Way, you'll recall, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supported the idea of the new owner of that property who's building a new industrial building there, may consider offering to the town some availability for parking at the end of Fuller Way on their lot. They were receptive to the idea, but of course not formalized or anything else, and it's not town land, no agreements in place, it's private property, and again, we have some wet there as well. Then staying in this section of the trail, the purple And on this line here with the dotted line is where some water pipes go through the property. This is the water tower. It's not being used at this time, but there is water control has control of the parcel because there's the ability to pump from there. This trail would be along that route, somewhat traversable. It's dry with wet areas. There may be some difficult locations, but he thinks that is a viable route for trails through there, or could be. Other access point, and then you have around the pond itself, which he said there is lots of evidence of active passive recreation, such as fishing, fishing lines, found lures. There's a picnic table either on the Fuller Way property or immediately adjacent to it, and evidence that it's used for some enjoyment of nature. And there are points around the pond that they found would be difficult to traverse, a little bit of elevation changes, and where it gets really wet again in certain areas where you have to figure out how you get around and whether or not going completely around the pond or having to circle further out would be more viable. Then to continue the discussion about parking areas, like I said, we had this one, number 2, number 3 seems, our staff discussion with the consultant led to, there's an access point through here, the legalities of it and the easement and the way that the access is written and where the access is through versus where the gate is to get into the water tower portion of the parcel, and all perhaps would need to be worked out, but it's the most level, most improved for car travel, and what we all saw as the point of access that we'd be most interested in pursuing at this time. Then there's the potential for when if this is gets through the approval processes for development, they're proposing 3 residential buildings back here, and including access through and including the Sportsman Pond area as a potential area to also create trail links. There were one more, as you move north to get up to the parcels further to the north, you have the challenge of crossing the river that's there. And there doesn't seem to be great points at which to do that. Really, the consultant said the distance that a bridge would be required through most of the parcel would likely require Army Corps approvals as well, and in his experience would be quite costly, but we're looking to see if there's some of these points closer to the Berlin Turnpike that might be able to link up to then the trails that are being formed further to the north. So I think that's the synopsis of what the consultant found. I don't think I missed anything, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to help you out with that.
Go ahead, Joe.
Maureen, what would be the next steps to moving forward on this? Would it be the water commission or wetlands takes and makes a recommendation, or how does it move forward?
I think what we were talking about pursuing first is finding out about this, whether this access is viable, and water control, who controls the use of this area, As well as there's utility that comes through here too. CLNP, I believe it is. They actually have an access from the Berlin Turnpike that we didn't think was very viable. Close to the corner, not the safest thing, better to get, people to go in off a side street. But I think we have to look to them and the legalities of access and cooperation amongst the different stakeholders for use of the areas and see who's on board. And you're one of those groups to determine whether or not you're on board with this being pursued further.
Yeah, and number 3 is close to, what is that, the car wash?
I believe this building here is the tri-state or they're try somebody.
The car wash is the next
And
one.
the car wash is either here or here.
Okay, yep.
I mean,
all
I
right.
could bring it up on, let me bring.
No, it's okay, all right.
Mm.
Well, it looks like it's still a complicated plan, but access and parking are key. And I'm not sure water control, I mean, you say access, and so it's wide enough for a vehicle to get through, but are they gonna allow parking in the water tank and well field?
Well, Ray Jarema has been part of these conversations.
I know, yeah.
So I think there's some positivity there, as far as willing to explore what safe and viable active options are.
And how about also as part of the planning or negotiations with the Berlin Turnpike developers, maybe get access points there?
Yeah, so that is, that application is in its early stages of review. But certainly, as we did with the developer further to the north, we wanted the potential for access points to create that corridor to go up along parallel with the Berlin Turnpike to be something that we would be creating connectivity.
You had said they're talking about green residential units, buildings, so is it apartments or a single family in that area?
Apartment, it would be a mixed use project utilizing this commercial property, the commercial property that's here, that's yet to be developed, but is
So it'd be great
approved
to
and
have access for people.
Right, which gets back to your previous point, Maureen, that should be part of the negotiation, because otherwise it will be private property for the use of them only, for the use of the residents there only.
so getting an access point for the public within their development.
Correct.
Yeah.
Access point and hopefully parking, I know parking's a premium, but
But if there's.
nobody's gonna
commercial
walk on the
too,
Berlin Turnpike to get there.
Right.
And the one to the north of the river, that's the big one, the 404, that's.
And he does have, his approval included parking access at this end of his site, the southerly end of his site on the portion of the development he's doing furthest to the south is where he created public parking for access to the trails that he's got on his property.
So do you need anything from us at this point?
I think, feedback as to whether you encourage us to continue to pursue and where you may have concerns, thoughts, or anything else. I know there was one meeting, at least I was at, I think it might have been a commission meeting, a planning and zoning commission meeting, where someone said their kid goes fishing there regularly. So, we know people use it, they're familiar. Some of you may be more familiar with the property and the terrain and amenities, for lack of another word, or challenges
Because right now, it's kind of just like a dead space, like nobody oversees it officially.
I believe water control does, but yes, it's pretty much, it's a natural
Right.
town parcel. The town parcel
I guess always
left
my
to
concern
natural,
is
so
that-
it's whether or not we pursue creating defined trail areas with.
I think it'll be better looked after, in my opinion, if part of the open space or whatever it is, because I imagine the fishing lures and everything else they found, it's just gonna stay there forever. You know, until some animal swallows it, and that's kind of what happens when there's nobody kind of overseeing places that people still go to.
It's always gonna happen, especially if it gets more developed.
Right.
Beverage cans all over the place too. Well, from my perspective, I mean, it's worth continued study. Sound like, I still think, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of balls in the air and a lot of complexity. Why not?
Hi, it's Guy Hoffman.
Yes, Guy.
I'm still at a loss. I was a little bit with the original, like, let's take a look at things on this about what the real goal is here. It's it's got some existing trails on it. The biggest feature is the pond. The shoreline is accessible in some spots. It's got a big drop in some others. When this first, even before this came out, I was asked to go walk it and did. And it's an open space kind of parcel, but I don't know what we do to make it better other than making an official access spot. I was able to park with nobody asking any questions at the number 3 spot next to the business. And there's a gate, but there's plenty of space in between that everybody that goes in through there just walks through. So it doesn't keep people out. If water control wants to let people in and open up the gate, that's something that I believe that the water tower has a fence all the way around it, as I recall. I don't know what else you do besides what's there. We haven't protected the property very well at all. You look along the access point number 2 is almost the properties there are almost to the edge of the lake anyway, with parking lots and buildings and stuff. That trail in through there, I did not walk through because it was too wet the day I was there. The purple, and along the other side of that by number 7 headed out towards number 6, the sewer line, the Mattabesset sewer line runs through there. So you got in through there. So you got the raised up areas for that with the manhole covers and stuff, with the but it's got a regular kind of trail down the center of it, and it gets a little tight headed from 3 up towards along that east side of the pond. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm seeing here on the map, some of that property that's adjacent that you're saying is going to end up being residential, has at least some temporary ponds and wetland area, yeah, in through there already. So I'm not so sure, you know, as far as you might have to really pick and choose some as far as access points. You know, I'm not so sure that I'm totally in favor of saying like, let's put an access point in through the wetland area. You know, I mean, I would think that those would be, you know, purple colors, at least, you know, if they were included on the survey, but obviously they weren't because it's not town property. So I'm not so sure what the quality of the access would be from there. The property, you know, it's been kind of left alone. I don't know if it's to the detriment or to the advantage of the existing, you know, water quality and things there. But definitely, I agree that the trying to get across the Mattabasset at that point, the size of the bridge that you would need to get across and stuff, I think would be pretty substantial and expensive. So I don't know what specifically we're trying to accomplish and how much, you know, we might spend to try to do that with the rest of the trails.
You know
But I
what,
do.
Bob? Go ahead.
Mhm.
Sorry, you had more? What I was just gonna say is, you made me think a little more too. Couple things. Number one, once they develop the parcels, will that make the surrounding areas wetter because of the runoff? So where you might have described being able to walk through there, just the thought there. And the other thing is, if everybody remembers that particular site from years ago, the town was looking at using that well site, but testing showed that the well water there was contaminated with various, I forgot, Guy, you may remember, I don't remember, the solvents or some stuff that and the remediation would have been more expensive than to buy the water from New Britain or something to that effect. That's kind of the background there. So that's another reason why maybe that area has been left alone.
If I remember correctly, and I don't want to speak for Ray, but I think they're looking to keep it as a viable or anticipating it being kept. There is an ability to use that water if necessary. So
If treated,
whether
it's gotta be treated.
testing didn't hit the, you know, a threshold that made it untreatable, you know, compared to other water sources or something, you know, but I don't think they'd want, it doesn't, I didn't get the feeling that they want to give up that capacity and because they have it.
Right.
So why would you give it up not knowing what the future shall bring, right? But that, to answer that question, that has been a portion of the discussion. I just want to go back and say that I pulled up the 554 Berlin Turnpike site plan, which is oriented so that east is to the north on this plan that I think you're all seeing. So the driveway comes in off the Berlin Turnpike here, with this being the existing ABC building and area. And so their driveway comes in with the two residential buildings here, and then one further down closer to the Woodlawn properties. There's this trail road going along here, and then their engineer, it was Bart Bove who described it to us, but he's created some areas for trails, I thought that was it, but that's a stormwater management area. Where's the trail? I could have sworn there was a trail right in that area, and I'm sorry, these plans are so small, but I'm trying my best.
So, well, more-
But, and it has, this project has gone to, he identified the wetlands, and it has gone through the wetlands review for this area. He did find a couple of spots where they thought that they could link to the adjacent Sportsman's Pond property.
so the other, you know what, Guy, your comments made me also think, if there is limited use here or limited access, or is the town going through these motions to enhance the private property? 505 and 404? With,
Not that I'm aware of.
no,
Yeah, I mean,
this is, it's kind of a question that I'm floating,
Yeah.
but if that's the only place it's gonna be, have access, or, so are we going through this exercise to enhance their property where nobody else from Woodlawn or perhaps Fuller Way is gonna have access?
Well,
Food
just
for thought.
if we were gonna go forward or think that they should to look into what to do with this, I think that should be something that would be, we should include or concern, have it as a concern anyway, that it should have public access with whatever. Because again, I'm just looking, if they're gonna put in, you know, those apartments and everything, and there's no public access, that's gonna just get sealed off.
Yeah.
And I always just worry that's just gonna become, you know, that's where everybody's old mattress is gonna end up, and some tires. And because nobody's ever gonna look, you know, look if it's sealed, nobody's ever gonna look at it.
Right.
And know it's there. And a couple guys that still may sneak in and fish, they're just, you know, using the tires to stand on when it's muddy or whatever.
So there should be, you're saying we should be able to ensure that it's stays good, so we would need some access, is that what? you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
So it would
thinking.
be through 3, is that what you're thinking?
Wherever it might be, but yeah, I mean, you know.
Well, 3 is
Is the,
potentially already owned by the town,
right,
but there's really no parking or anything there.
Right,
The access way itself from Woodlawn up to the property line is what will have to be investigated as to whether or not there's an existing agreement for that location or a location in that area, but that's where it's practically used.
Mhm.
My recollection from one of those, the applications along Woodlawn was that the easement wasn't where everybody thought it was, but that was a couple of years ago. And I don't remember those details, but again, during our staff discussion, this seemed to be the most feasible and viable, but it will take some legality,
Mhm.
looking at the legalities of access that is viable and agreeable by those that, we've got to traverse somebody else's property to use that. And if there is an easement there, does it have restrictions that it's only for the water tower or only for the utility, the CLMP, or is it something that can be expanded or is already, or is broad enough? We haven't gotten that far.
So here's the other thing, so I realize that it's owned by, the pond is owned by the town, but once we make it, we'll promote it and make it accessible. You've got a liability issue with the pond, and you also have, you know, how does emergency access now get through?
That's a good point.
yeah, it is a good point.
You know, if there's a lot of slope, as Guy said, around the pond, it's pretty rugged and, you know,
So you could have goals and
Yeah.
people going into
Mhm.
water, right?
if there's enough tires around, they won't have that problem.
Yeah, right. They would get some COVID money just to make it, you know, a road.
There's another site in town that I was
Gotta go to another town.
flabbergasted by the number of tires they cleaned.
Really?
And a wet area adjacent to their parcel. It was astonishing to me.
I remember in the old days, people used to throw things at right off the slope in their backyard. Just disappeared.
Yeah, this is Guy Hoffman again. Yeah, Michael, I'm a little concerned too about the interest in the property, along with the current project to the north. And then with this other one, potentially from what Maureen showed, having 2 access points on trails from behind their apartments. People aren't going to park in the apartment lot and access an open space parcel. I don't think by walking behind the buildings and on the trails behind somebody else's, behind the apartments. I think a key thing with this is really the access point, and the logical one at this point is probably location number 3. To get a formal easement and maybe open up at least a portion of the road that's there now to some kind of parking.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Guy, that even if you get agreement on the easement or, clear those terms, you still would have to address the parking and, trying to put the squeeze on the business to let people park in their property is probably going to be harder than saying, in that purple and yellow area there near the water tower, is there something near there close to the road that you could put, a half a dozen parking spots there or something?
Yeah.
In this area.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we were talking about creating an area for
Gotta find out what the
Parking.
Town owns first. So yes, with reservations.
That's
Yeah, I think an important component is public parking, public access. That's independent from any of the other projects.
And I think that's part of what this consultant exploration was, which obviously by the numbers, because that is exactly what he was creating, was where are access points, where is likely parking able to be explored or not, and why. So, and like I said, with number 1, he found not looking good, but addressed each of those, and that was part of the exercise as well. But certainly the input from this board, you guys know the open space lands better than anybody else probably in town, so.
All right, thank you, Maureen. The next item, well, you'll tell us. The short version, is there anything there that we need to look at, or Randecker Lane? Where's Randecker Lane?
That's near Showman.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
this is that's the one you had up there.
so the next one is the Shuttle Meadow
Preserve,
Country Club
yeah.
property at the south end. Many of you might remember that the Planning and Zoning Commission last year, maybe the year before, approved rezoning of the property to allow for PR2 zoning development, which would allow for the multifamily development at the south end of the golf course property with access through West Lane. They will be going to, they went through wetlands as well as deep or sensitive, no, that's not the right word.
Species of special concern.
Of special concern, yeah, and they had an exercise of that they went all through. They've now brought the application into Planning and Zoning Commission. We're anticipating the public hearing to be at least opened. I don't know if it'll be open and closed, or at least opened at Planning and Zoning Commission's January 20th, 2022 meeting. And other than that first run through of the application or of the concept plan, when they look to rezone the property, I haven't done much of an analysis of that. That's pretty far off from
Has it changed?
agenda right now. As far as I know, not a lot has changed with it. Let me see if I
We
can
looked at this.
find it again. I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. I'm gonna X out of the ones we already looked at. So that hopefully I can. Here it is. Let me share this with these guys. And I'm gonna try, I just scanned this because I don't believe I have it digitally from the applicant, so you'll have to bear with me. It's a lot of pages, 36, to find the location. Some of the things that were discussed at the time of the zone change was requesting that they consider a parking area within the confines of the parcel so that it would alleviate some of the parking that happens along West Lane to access the trails. And I was actually looking to see, I believe that is, so this is West Lane over here at the far left of the screen.
Yep.
And there's a parking area there for those of you in the room. We'll have plans that you'll be, might be able to see better. Sorry, guys, that I had to scan a smaller sheet,
Well, we'll flip through this.
but
Do that one there.
so,
What page you
that's what I was just trying to scroll down far enough. That's page 01.
Yeah, you don't want that.
That's got an awful lot on it, but it is the overall site development plan. So you can see
What's the page?
on bottom
This
corner
one,
over
S1,
there.
oh, C4.
Yeah,
No,
so this is
oh,
01. 01. Probably, I think it's like it's 5th page down is what I have on my
Oh, one, yeah.
list.
Yeah, but keep going, Maureen. There's gotta be a better one.
But to give you a good overview, because it is the overview, West Lane here, the golf course, remaining country club up here. This is also their parcel. These are the Harvest Hill Road comes in over here. And their new access coming in off West Lane and creating these couple of cul-de-sacs with units off of them. And then I'm gonna try to
Are they single family or attached? Townhouse?
think that some are attached and some, yeah, see,
These look
some are
like
attached and
doubles,
some are
So
single.
2 doors, maybe.
Yeah, so we have here, you'll see, this is where it's coming off West Lane, there's parking. This would be the parcel to be conveyed to the town of Berlin for trailhead parking.
Switch the page.
I did, I went down to site layout C1
Okay, here we are.
and I just,
Their parcel to be.
16B, so these are like duplexes almost.
and then these, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 units, as you come in here, you continue down the road, you have duplex units on either side of the
So you
street.
said- you said zoning and wetlands have already seen this?
So they came in and got a zone change to PR2, which is planned residential 2, which has an underlying zone of the R21 single family zone, which can continue to be developed there, which is what most of West Lane is.
Okay.
Across the way, there's R43 zoning, but this area and to the east of it is for the most part R21. But the PR2 zone allows for multifamily development where part of their pitch to rezone without me having the minutes in front of me or the decision in front of me was that they can cluster. That clusters the development within a confined area instead of all separated out with 1,000 square foot lots, instead you're impacting
Which one?
a smaller area
Now, had
of
this area already been approved for
Yeah,
single
I-
family and they
I
just changed it?
thought
Or
the
is
same
this
the
thing.
all?
zoning. The zoning for that area of
Except I think
town
there'll be stairs.
was R43.
Just single.
It got rezoned
Oh,
to
okay.
to PR2, which has R21 underlying, 21,000.
And then they
square
came
foot
up with these
lots.
plans.
And then
Okay.
that zone also allows for
Right.
cluster development,
So these look like they're gonna be like
or
a town.
multifamily
That's what I'm
development.
picturing.
Could be, but then there's four.
Oh, yeah.
And but if you go in further, so go down to sheet C3, those are single family
Yeah.
units. And again,
You get more
units,
bodies in the area.
they,
But I'm just thinking, there's an advantage then because it's clustered, so you might have more open space
Right.
rather than everybody
Is
spread out.
this 55 and older or is it any age?
PR2 is planned residential, I believe it's
Any age?
any, it's not restricted.
Very cool.
So again, they're units, much like Silver Ridge, Silver Island. That's all one piece of property, but they have individual, Beckley Farms, most of that, the newest portion, but the rest of it, they're single family or duplex units or a few quadruplex units that are, yeah, 4 seems to be the most. Again, I haven't looked at the development plan
better than all single
intensively,
family.
Yeah.
but you can see if you go down to sheet G1,
Yeah.
you can see some of
These
the
are good.
notations with regard to wetlands and environmental considerations and what was being
I think that parking area off West Lane.
what they were keeping from the area of development.
Yeah, I think it would be a help for, but it'll just bring more people there.
Oh, yeah.
Be like building the parking area off Winesap and it would just be more, they would still park along the street.
Betsy, by the way, texted me today.
Oh, yeah. A little too late.
I really thought there was a better overall site plan. Here you can see the area that is on G5 has Harvest Hill comes in off of Chamberlain Highway to the north of West Lane and has, you know, single family development along the border with Shuttle Meadow Country Club. That's where there was considerable discussion, as I recall from a couple of years ago or last year, of staying away from wetlands and sensitive areas all through this area. And if you guys online would like me to look for a particular sheet or area of the development for you to look at, let me know and I'll flip the pages.
How many units altogether, you know?
76.
Big
We
development.
should be what would be
But this is
the
only phase one,
acreage,
right?
the acreage of the area should match what could be developed as single family, but pushed together.
They're gonna put it all together.
And then preserve area around it. That's the concept.
Right.
The effectiveness of any specific plan is yet to be analyzed.
I mean, if it's gonna be allowed to happen, I think I would rather see it be done this way, because then you do have contiguous open space and it seems like you could have larger buffer zones between like the wetlands here. It looks like this is still gonna stay as woodland.
Do you guys online want me to switch to anything or zoom in or out, or tell me if you'd like me to flip pages?
Right, so you're good?
Yeah, I don't think it's changed much from what we looked at before.
I'm not aware of major changes. Like I said, the thing that hung them up for a considerable period of time was the sensitive species analysis and DEP and the state.
Was there a particular species that they,
I don't
Okay.
remember, we'd have to look at the wetlands.
They tell you, but then they'd have to kill you.
you cannot know that it's there?
Yeah, they don't.
Right.
This might be, it might be in the
The rare
documents.
albino unicorn.
Actually, that's true though. Well, Guy will tell you, right? They won't tell you what.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
guy, yeah,
yeah.
they don't, they even to other DEP people, they often don't share what it is. And they usually don't share an exact location.
But
If
wait,
it's like,
Guy,
if they're plants or something like that,
no, but isn't that close to where the what was the one, the Lampreys, the
yeah, those were over at the
Timberland?
at Timberland.
What is it?
What was what was it again? It wasn't a Lamprey, it was something else, right?
Yeah, it's what, a river, it's freshwater
Right,
lamprey, so they're teeny. I mean, relatively speaking, I've seen them 4 or 5 inches long, something like that. So they're totally, they're not the same as the big lampreys, but yeah, they're very rare. And but they are in the same family, so they're lampreys.
Okay.
But I hate to be, I mean, I don't know what we're gonna end up saying about this proposal and stuff. It's hard, it's a big project. It's hard to get a real handle on it. But they got their zone change already, right? So I think without any kind of stipulation, isn't that correct, Maureen?
So a zone changes the zoning.
Right,
It's-
so
it's
that's
you either
all.
change it to a different zone or you don't
Right.
change it to a different
Right,
zone.
so,
There can't be conditions on a zone change.
right,
But
so,
the zone allows for, among the other things listed within the zoning, for development under traditional zoning of R21, which is 21,000 square foot residential single-family lots, or development under the PR2 zone if you meet all the criteria of the PR2 zone, which has specific design criteria that have to be met and fulfilled. It's a, design elements met. One of them that stands out in my mind, because it's something that's been a subject of much discussion, is it must have public water and public sewer
mhm,
to allow for the clustering of the development. That's one of the design criteria. If they can meet that design criteria, then it reverts to the single family zoning that is the underlying zone, as we call it.
mhm.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, I guess?
Yeah, and that was this, but I guess going to my point with that was that, so it's not quite the same as some other projects where they're trying to decide how to maximize the development within an existing zone, so they didn't really have to get the zone change. It's not like they've put aside open space areas and stuff to get that clustering. I mean, to me, and it's hard to tell for sure, but from what I've seen before, what I remember and looking at the map previously here tonight, that it seems like they're just staying out of undevelopable property anyway. They're staying out of the wetlands that you really shouldn't be allowed to build in anyway. So what they're doing, what they've done is they've been able to change the zone. They haven't really given up anything that's buildable in the future, and they're just maximizing the income that they can get on the clustering, and still not really sacrificing anything for a future project on the property, because they still have more areas that they could develop if they wanted to. So, I mean, it is what it is. They got the zoning changed, they can do it. I mean, I just want to see them stay as far out of the wetlands and water courses, anything else that might be there, any of the sensitive areas, but yeah, I don't think there's, other than that, there's really much that you have to I don't know, negotiate with or to try to push for, but I don't think that they're staying out of these places by very much from what I can see right there. So I don't know. It's if they met the criteria for it, that's what they're gonna build. And you know, I that's not quite what I pictured when I heard that they wanted to develop the property and put housing in. I didn't think it was going to be a cluster of you know, duplexes and tightly grouped houses, but so I don't know where we go with that, but that's just my rant on that, but I don't know.
I think they're playing, just by calling it the preserve, they're playing a whole green thing, so people, you know, for good or bad, but people may feel better, you know, and not everybody's dumping a bunch of fertilizer on their half-acre lot.
Be high end, but look, density is something that we've always kind of looked for to try to preserve open space, but you're right. Every development goes right up to the edge anyway, right? They're always going to try to maximize. That's standard. That's right.
Except for this time, they're able to do it with, you know, smaller lots, so. And duplexes and things like that, so.
They're units on one parcel, so yes,
But they're owned,
correct.
they're not rented. It's
The
not like a
unit
farm.
would be, I believe, owned. Again, the
Yeah,
ownership
association.
doesn't matter as much from the zoning standpoint, you know, for certain types of projects it does. But it is much more about how they function. And so they function as single family dwellings, but
They're joined.
they're all together on one piece of property, much like your traditional condos or your single family condos.
Right, common property.
Common property, all common. That all said, as with, I think there's another one on the applications as well, that these are not going to be on planning and zoning commission until after your next meeting as well. So if you do have concerns or you want more information, some staff comments, you know, hopefully we'll be prepared by then on this and some of the other applications, but also we can always invite applicants to give you an overview of their projects with some direction. You asked me to ask them to come, and I can certainly see it. The developer, or the engineer, or any of those parties would come and answer questions and describe to you what's happening with their proposal.
Okay.
So let me know if that's a thing, and we'll make that happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we need to discuss Clean Earth?
I guess what I'd like to know on this is I've made a few notations, as has Marlo, so I count on her minutes for a lot of stuff, but do you have comments you want to make to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review at this time? You want to revisit it next month? You want to?
This one or?
For this
cleaner?
one,
Oh,
for this one.
sorry.
You know, this is really the routing to the Conservation Commission.
Guys' comments, I think were pretty spot on about, you know, just concern about staying away from the wetlands, and you have that, right? Okay.
So I have appropriate to cluster and protect sensitive and wetlands areas. Support the ability to create off-street parking for trail access.
Yep.
Concern that the areas not being able, you know, the clustering, and I didn't word it great yet, Guy, but it is in response to your comments that some of the preserved areas wouldn't be able to be developed, and therefore is it more intense than might be supported by the acreage. And to stay as far away from the sensitive areas as possible. That's what I have so far.
I think that's it. Yeah, Guy agrees too, thank you. Is Clean Earth, do we need to bring that, the filling?
So I wasn't
Good road.
able to find, immediately find
Is this one also gonna be continued?
yes, it is. And I know it's been kind of a long meeting tonight.
So if you haven't looked at it yet.
Clean Earth is on, again, the 20th of January for Planning and Zoning Commission. This is the parcel that is behind New Britain Road along the railroad, and where ponds are. They're talking about filling the property in order to ready it for development. It will include some compensation areas, because there are some wetlands back there, and some soils that have to be mediated, I believe, as well. Again, been a while since I had a meeting on this, so
Want to wait till next
you want to
meeting?
wait till
That way,
we'll
you
reschedule that for
If
next
you
month?
can get an
And I'll get-
electronic copy so that everybody can see it. Okay, thanks, Maureen. Use of town lands. So before the meeting, I actually had an email communication from an Eagle Scout. God, I forgot his first name, right? David Evans' son. Jameson Evans. And I found out an interesting fact that the wood that we found delivered to the campsite area, shared campsite, was Boy Scout wood. So his Eagle Scout project, he would like to improve the area around the fire pit with pavers, solid, stone pavers. So we talked a little bit about the concern about unauthorized use and it being locked up. So anyway, he's gonna come up with a plan and probably come back to our meeting in January. And it sounds like because of COVID, there was not a lot of authorized use, but sounds like they plan on using that.
Did we have the wood taken away?
I don't know what Steve Wood did with it, but I don't know what he did. He might have.
That might be something too, as part of this project, to create something where the wood is locked up. So it's not just sitting there.
That's an
But I'm just
idea.
thinking he's gonna make this fire pit beautiful,
know,
and then
it's
it's all
like
this
a
wood is sitting there, it's like, just leave marshmallows and people will be there.
Yeah. Well, Buildings and Grounds is fabricating a locking mechanism.
Right, I remember we did that for the last time, but if there's a
Next
locking
time.
thing for the wood too.
Oh, next topic, okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
you,
that's
but
all right.
I
So
let you
we'll-
know.
but we'll see
Oh my
Jameson next month. Well, it's actually in a couple of weeks, it feels like. Okay, so the
I'm trying to find more information that was emailed to me.
about the fire pit.
So once you move on to the next
All right,
item.
so I don't know if there's anything on the garden, probably not. You gave us a closing report last month, I think. Bicentennial Park, the only thing, there was that public ordinance committee meeting, public hearing last week, 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, the 30th.
the 30th. Karen was there. Karen, if you wanna fill us in.
So really, from what I gathered, and I could be wrong, Mark, the mayor, said that they would bring it back and discuss it again. And then,
Tonight,
yeah,
vote on it.
so I
Oh, the
saw,
ordinance of letting no leash.
no leash is the only place is at Bicentennial Park. So
Every place else is
I did see our town manager, and he was saying we need a leash law throughout the town, because that's the safe thing to do in terms of life. So I don't know what's gonna happen. It's really ridiculous.
The town needs to make a dog park,
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they should have done years ago.
like in
Absolutely.
every other town in the,
So Newington is putting in a dog park now.
really?
Yeah, do you know where Jefferson House is in Newington? It's like kind of near Market Square. Hartford Healthcare owns a parcel of land and the town is leasing it. And they're turning that, it's like right across it, the volunteer fire, volunteer ambulance is here. And right across the street is
Yeah,
the
yeah, I know
parcel of
that.
land.
Yeah.
They're clearing it now and
Really?
it's gonna be a dog park.
Fence?
I would say yes.
Yeah, that's not right here. So, that's all I know. Maybe we'll find out more tonight or later on.
It's probably still going on. So I should run up and see what's going on.
So Maureen, was there an update from Buildings Grounds on the,
So there was, and I'm looking for the email that I got from Woody that I thought I kept minimized so that I could bring up the photographs, or rather the sample signage. Let me right here, there we go. A PDF must have,
okay,
the PDF closed on me, that's what happened. So let me share this screen.
We talked about this last.
So we've been discussing securing the fire pit, which is part B of my comments right now. And securing the fire pit and creating signs that would be adjacent to the fire pit. And these are the sample signs that were received from Vital Signs. Preference, direction?
I like fire by permit only, the other one is too.
I agree with you, however, that one leads me to believe that I just can get a permit.
You're right,
You know.
right,
I mean, that just may be more voice traffic. And that
Yeah. exactly.
Doesn't, I don't have to
Totally
answer the
agree with
phone,
you.
so.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think we had this discussion before.
Yeah.
I kind of go, but I like the simple one, fire by permit only, and let them figure out how to get a permit.
Great.
Yeah, I guess I agree. I like the simpler sign, and the details of how to get a permit could elaborate that, the permitting rules only allow certain groups or whatever it might be, but I think simpler is better.
I'm just throwing this out, I haven't thought it through. Could you go the other way and say, no fires permitted, or no fires by the public? That's not the right words I want to say, but in other words, rather than say that you have to have a permit, maybe just say you can't do it. Am I making sense?
Can I
Yeah,
remind that?
and then the permittees would know that they can do it, even though it says no fires allowed.
I would
So
think, because the
us
scouts must
neighbors
know they can have a fire there, it's
But they
their
still
area.
need a permit, right?
Correct, but I would think the scouts would know that, wouldn't the scouts know that, or no?
So my recollection of discussion, previous discussion by this commission on that issue was that, that then lends, people to say, oh yeah, but I saw that group having a fire, so it's okay, so that's just a
Right.
sign, that's one of those signs. It's
Right, the sign doesn't
25
matter.
mile per hour sign,
Right.
you know, it's just a sign.
Have you been talking to the police about me again?
You know, I hate to use that as an example, but I
But
think
it's
the
true.
world universally
Even
understood.
25 miles an hour, you start to roll backwards. I do-
That's so true.
I do agree, though, the shorter sign, people can see that right away.
And the people are going, how do I get a permit? And maybe it'll be less because
Maybe they'll
the
all join
Boy
the
Scouts will know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
more succinct is better.
that's my opinion, so, yeah.
Hi, it's Guy again. I kind of like the longer one, but
No,
But-
really?
but I'm thinking like, let's just take Parks and Rec out of it. And just put police take notice at the end and go fires only by youth groups with permit from town of Berlin. Police take notice.
I think the other one's stronger, and that's what I like about it. What would be a youth group? I mean, is it only the Scouts that are allowed there? No, so it could be a religious.
We don't believe it's only the Scouts.
Okay,
I
so
don't
I
think
say
any-
just
I don't think we
about
actually pulled out the rules,
Karen's neighborhoods, kids.
Yeah, right.
but
I imagine it's probably any sanctioned group, but
Yeah,
you're right, like
yeah.
CCD class or
Yeah, so
whatever.
like fire by permit only, sorry, Deb. I'm giving my vote very out there.
Yeah, I vote for the permit only sign.
I could go along with that too.
And it's been coerced.
Where will the sign be placed? Have we thought about that?
In the middle of the grill.
Coming up right for the-
I would think there had to be a couple of them.
I think
one on each side.
Woody had a conversation with the commission last time about where that placement would roughly be that
Yeah.
made sense adjacent to the pit, or that whether there would actually even be something on the pit cover itself that's being created. I think if I remember correctly, I was playing with the technology and letting him run that part. I'm sorry, I just don't remember the details.
Whatever, we'll
But-
figure it out, yeah. We'll get
But
it on the side.
I would encourage the commission to allow that to be staff discretion,
yeah.
because they'll be on site and able to figure out
Sure.
what angle has the right visibility for the people approaching the area.
So we didn't have a vote, we just by consensus, I think you.
Consensus? Okay, I will note that. And as an aside from that, or a second matter related to this, so you'll recall that you voted to allow purchase of welding for a cover.
Mhm.
That cost, once detailed, came out considerably higher than anticipated, or than grounds, thinks they can do better. So while the motion was for a specific vendor, he's pursuing, looking at other options for the cover, other sources, other welders, and, or perhaps obtaining the materials to doing so, and wants to get the blessing of the commission for us to consider other options for those costs. Or for the, to make that come to fruition.
Yeah,
It may very well result in needing to come back for a little more.
okay.
Um,
The effort,
the iron is gone up in price.
yeah.
Yeah, with everything else.
So that's more of an FYI than anything else. And then if you don't mind, I have one other comment to make. Tomorrow night, there is an affordable housing plan information, a public information meeting. I didn't carry my sign in here, it's on
Yeah,
my
I got-
door, it's on the
Everybody
website.
was emailed.
I
Yeah,
think you
we all
all,
got the email.
all town boards and commissions should have gotten the email, not everybody opens their email accounts from the town. I don't know if you guys have private accounts or the town accounts, depends on who, so, certain boards have town accounts, so we're all agreed to announce them in our meetings to the best of our ability. I'm announcing it.
So noted, we got the email, so thank you.
So I have another question. Are either of you going to the bungalow next week on the 16th?
No, I just noticed what it was. I didn't even know what it was.
Okay.
I thought it was another restaurant.
How about you? Are you? Did you get it?
No.
There's an invite to a town. It's almost like a thank you, I guess. Am I right?
Oh, economic developments,
The 16th at the bungalow?
yes.
This is the furniture place?
Yeah, the new one. used to
Oh,
be
yeah,
the
I haven't
new
been,
ones.
my wife's been to it.
Yeah, there's a, like a, I want to, it's a reception.
Economic
Okay.
development is supporting boards and commissions, a thank you to
Yeah.
those that volunteer and serve the town. For my, it's the same night as the planning and zoning commission meeting, so I haven't paid a lot of attention to the details of it, but any questions, you could certainly ask me. I'll
So the
Chris
town
Edge
is
will get-
sponsoring it there? Or
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a town,
I thought the
economic-
furniture place was sponsoring.
our
it.
economic development director is
Oh, okay.
coordinating it for town volunteers
Yeah, it's 5:30 to 7:30 bungalow.
on the 16th, in
On the
case you guys didn't get that either.
I didn't get it. Okay. Thank you.
You did not get it?
Oh.
I can make sure.
You-
You might have asked them.
It's this week. I'm all confused about what week we're in. Sorry.
Somebody's almost retired.
What year? This year, or-
That's why, because I'm confused, right?
You don't have to worry about the date.
Exactly.
You gotta wait till you're retired. You
I
wouldn't.
won't even know the
What day
date.
it is? Where's the newspaper? No, we don't get it.
I do get it. That's the one thing I did that.
All right, so without further ado,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Can I just step in before that? Sorry, guys. I just want as a commissioner comment. I probably won't be at the next meeting. Just wanted to let you know that I'm having partial knee replacement surgery the
Oh, I
day
thought you had
before.
that. Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, best of
so
luck.
I'm not so sure I'm gonna be in great shape for the meeting the next night, so,
Oh,
but,
yeah. You gotta
Oh,
take
You
care
might
of
be a
yourself.
riot the next night.
I know.
yeah, it could be
That's the
interesting,
painkillers,
so.
You'll feel fine. It's a week later,
It
maybe
looks like he
not.
wants to
Yeah,
assist.
yeah, I'm, you may not like it or something. I may not be able to find the unmute, so. Or the mute, so,
Well, good luck to you
Yeah,
guys.
good luck.
Definitely.
So-
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Happy
And
holiday. all in
Happy
favor of
holidays to
adjourning?
everybody.
Aye.
Same to you.
Adjourning?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So moved. Thank you.
The time is-
Happy holidays. Thank you,
Good luck with
everybody.
your knee.